Hopefully you guys having a great and exceptional day. Alrighty, so it is, of course, disappeared. Alright, so it is Friday, last day of the week. Therefore, it's the last word of the week. Alright, let's get into it. So it's going to be a little bit different today. It's not going to be the normal word of the day. That's why I'm live here on Instagram, because I will need a little bit more time to do what I got to do. My dog Max is good. Let me know how you guys have been doing this week and all that good stuff. All right, so today's word of the day is Zoic. Z-O-I-C, in case I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. All right, and it describes something that resembles an animal or contains evidence of life. You might entertain your brother by making a Zoic hand shadows on his wall. So basically, at the end of the day, it's resembling an animal or obviously contains evidence of life. But it's something that is not giving a clear picture. If you know me and if you watch my content enough, you know that I'm more of a straight to the point, straight shooter. You know, I usually like when I indulge in drinking an alcoholic beverage, I usually like a Long Island or a rum and coke. All right. But when it comes to people, give it to me straight, no chaser. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, a lot of people like to, be swarmy and slimy or talk around the issue when they can't just be adults and just get to what they need. They want to hint around stuff instead of just saying, if I say I need to use the restroom, I'm going to say I'm going to use the restroom. If I say I want $1 billion, I'm going to say I want $1 billion. But in society with so many people today, they've been trained to just say, well, let's pontificate if I need $1 million, $1 billion, and how should I end up getting it? And no, do I really want it? Do I not want it? It's, I call it a fake Shakespearean mindset. To be or not to be, that is the question. No, I am here. I'm alive, so I am. Okay, I'm not dead. So therefore, it's not the question. But I will leave it at that. Okay. So today's quote of the day is by Katt Williams. He says, if someone hates you because of who you are and how you live, then give them a reason to hate you some more. The main reason why I've always liked Katt Williams is not just because he's entertaining. The first time I saw him was on the movie Friday After Next, the third and last Friday that was actually ever made. But the main reason why I like Katt Williams is he's always stood on his square. Regardless of whatever he's gone through, he's always stood on business. He stood on his square. And always been happy to be who he is and represent who he is and never try to be something that he's not. And I respect that so much in today's world because we live in such a world where a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people want to be something that they're not. They want to live by other people's standards and they don't want to live by their own. Authenticity comes from being who you want to be at the end of the day, regardless of what anybody says, regardless of what anybody thinks. I've always been, for the most part, even when I tried to fit in, it never worked. So I've always tried to be authentically me. And those who like it, cool. Those who don't like it, have a nice life, as this, or tengo una buena vida, have a good life. That's how I look at it. But anyways, so before I get off, I've been reading this book by Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, who I had the pleasure of seeing and meeting last year at InvestFest. So if you're not going to InvestFest, I will be at InvestFest because I like to be around people that talk about business and investments. All right. But relationships. He really, and I never knew this about 50 Cent. This is some real in-depth stuff in regards to his life and things of that nature. And he talked about one of the best relationships he ever had. It didn't work out, but he talked about how it was one of the best ones. So he said, and I quote, this is why this is 50 Cent said, I'm definitely most attracted to women who don't seem to care about my success, who aren't overly impressed by the persona of 50 Cent. In other words, he said, the ones who act like they don't need 50 Cent but could be interested in Curtis Jackson. So, going back to who he really is, this coexists with the word Zoic, because we're not talking about a mimic of what a person is. We're talking about who a person truly is. At the end of the day, 50 Cent was born Curtis Jackson, and he will die Curtis Jackson. 50 Cent is just a persona of his acting career, rapping career, etc., and so forth, of the entertainment industry. But he is authentically Curtis Jackson. All right? And he wants to be with a woman who doesn't care about being with 50 Cent, but they care about being with Curtis Jackson. That's some real stuff right there. I vibe with that energy. He said, for example, a lot of people have been curious about my relationship. Repeat that. 50 Cent said, I didn't care about what anybody else thought. Chelsea and I met on her talk show, and I started pursuing her right after. See, he had interest in this woman, but it was bigger than looks. It was bigger than looks. All right, let's get into it. All right. He says, I sent her 50 white roses. I'd call her office and ask to speak with her. She didn't hit me back at first, but finally I got in touch with her when she was about to go to Nashville, Tennessee for an event. I asked if I could fly down and meet her, and she said, okay. He says, we met and had a great time together. After that, we ended up hooking up whenever we were both in Los Angeles. I even made plans to go on vacation with her and her family. Don't worry, I'm not putting her business out there. She's talked about all this. She's talked about all this publicly. So he's just, you should be attracted to females who don't need you. We live in a time where guys think we've been living in a time where guys think it's cool to play Captain Save 'em. I'm not going to be derogatory. Play Captain Save 'em to the point where they purposely go out of their way to look for females that desperately need their financial backing. So you're quote unquote a boss, but you are dating and marrying a subordinate purposely. Because a lot of times men, and I used to be guilty of this myself when I was younger, are intimidated by women who have a boss-minded persona, who get things done, who get their hustle on, who's about their business. I find that to be, as 50 Cent says, sexy as F in a female. You can have all the looks all day, but if you got boss tendencies, you talk about making some money, you talking about building assets, you talking about investing, you got my attention. Think on that. All right, make it a good one for the person coming into the relationship with most of the money. Speak on that. Yet, as I get older, I start to find myself being more open to the idea of settling down and building a more stable family life. When I go through the mental checklist of things, I'd look for a potential wife. I'm not starting with looks or fame. Those qualities aren't as important to me anymore because he's older and more mature. The most critical quality for any woman I'm going to be interested in is self-sufficiency. The most important quality I'm looking for in a woman is self-sufficiency, both financial and emotional. Otherwise, I'm always going to think that they are just trying to get to me to sign one of those bad contracts. As Lil Duval said, would you sign a contract that does not benefit you? Only you can answer that. When I had this conversation about marriage and relationships, I always say, look, it's a personal choice. If it works for you, cool. If it doesn't work for you, then cool. But it's a contract with the government, with the state, if you live in the United States of America. And it's a contract with God for those who are religious and faith-based, whatever the case may be. I'm respectable of everybody. But it is a contract that you are signing. And when you dismantle the contract, you dismantle the business. Whether you're broke or have a lot of money, the business gets dissolved. And whatever monies or assets are involved, they have to be split 50-50, or sometimes they just split 100 to none, depending on the situation. And if you have kids, it's a beautiful thing called child support. So everything in America, whether you like it or not, regardless who's in the White House, governor's house, or mayor's house, is an economic decision. So look for Larry's Anything Goes LLC. I'll be putting more of my funny stuff up on there, and longer, short videos, for stuff when it comes to good information and some comedy all at the same time. But other than that, you'll just see the regular videos on Larry's Anything Goes. A couple of shorts here and there, but not a lot because I don't want to get another strike on my channel. And I can't wait for September to get here. So the strike that I have on my channel is gone. So I'm being a good steward because, I don't want to lose my channel. I love having Larry's Anything Goes. I don't want to be